This is Catholic Forum. I'm Bob Krebs. Over the last several years, the U.S. bishops have been planning a huge Eucharistic revival and a Eucharistic Congress, which is finally upon us. It's going to be held on July the 17th through the 21st. Folks from all over the country are coming to Indianapolis, Indiana, and part of the delegation from the Diocese of Wilmington are with me today on the program. First of all, Father Joseph McQuaide, who many of you know, is our diocesan judicial vicar, chancellor, and pastor of St. Mary of the Immaculate Conception and St. Patrick's Parish, and also the rector of our cathedral. And in his free time, he goes to Eucharistic congresses. Father, welcome.
Thanks, Bob. It's great to be back.
It's good to have you here. And Dan Pinn, who some of you must know, of course, who is in our youth ministry office, and he is also involved in the Eucharistic Revival and Eucharistic Congress. And we're going to be talking about two Eucharistic Congresses. Is that the proper? It's not Congress I, is it?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think
Congresses.
so. Congresses, yeah. One in Indianapolis, which is coming up very, very soon, and then another one, which is taking place in our diocese on October 5th. So before we get into all of that, it's all part of the Eucharistic Revival that started in 2001, is that right?
2022, I believe.
22, and it goes on into 25.
Correct. It's a three-year
process. So why are we having a Eucharistic revival in our country?
Certainly. Just before the pandemic, Pew did a study. And in that study, it came out in the results that about a third of Catholics believed what the Church teaches, what the Eucharist is, that it's Jesus' body, blood, soul, and divinity, not a symbol, not just a thought, but really and truly Jesus. Mm-hmm. Now, that certainly gives us pause, all members of the Church. And so the bishops, as our fathers and pastors, saw that there was a need, and they wanted to address it. And so through their deliberations in the U.S. Conference of Bishops, they decided to embark on a 3-year Eucharistic revival, focusing on some diocesan efforts, parish efforts, and then beginning on the last day of the Congress in Indy, we'll begin our missionary year, our going out to share this good news. Now, part of the good news is that there's been another survey that's come out, and it's you can chalk it up to the way that the questions were asked, but now we're saying about 70% of Mass-going Catholics believe what the Church teaches. Mm-hmm. So Pew's question was probably off in the beginning, right, but there's still 30% of Catholics that we need to get this message out to, because this is the greatest gift that we have of Christ himself. So we want to revive our belief in the Eucharist. And so that's why the bishops have started this process.
So it all kind of comes together here at a milestone for the revival, the National Eucharistic Congress, which I think is the 10th that we've had in the United States. So what is a Eucharistic Congress, and how many folks from our diocese will be in attendance?
Yeah, so the National Eucharistic Congress is kind of, as Father mentioned, the culmination of these first 2 years of work in the Eucharistic Revival. As the dioceses and parishes have been working to bring this relationship with Jesus in the Eucharist back to their own communities, the Congress, the National Congress, is an opportunity for everyone in the United States to come together and celebrate, to pray together, to adore Jesus together, and have that experience as a church in our country, in the United States. One of the coolest things about it is there's currently going on these processions, these Eucharistic processions, starting from the 4 geographic corners of the country. And the Congress actually kicks off with Jesus being brought into Indianapolis, into Lucas Oil Stadium, as the kind of the final stage on those processions. So it's really this build-up, getting people together, getting people re-engaged with their faith and experiencing Jesus in the Eucharist in a really special way. Mm-hmm. The Congress itself, over these 4 days, really kind of walks everyone who's attending through this story of encountering Jesus again. There's these revival sessions each night where everyone will come together, and a huge lineup of breakout rooms and different tracks and talks that people can attend, that they kind of self-select into these things, kind of something for everybody to find here. There's also these special presentations, there's music, there's beautiful liturgies. It's really going to be a special time for everybody coming. Currently from Wilmington, we'll have 27 pilgrims going, plus Bishop Koenig So we'll be joining him there, all 28 of us.
That's great. And I saw kind of the lineup of the speakers, and it's the who's who of American Catholic speakers. You got Bishop Barron and it goes on from there. Scott Hahn,
tons and tons.
Yeah.
If you've heard them at a conference in the past, they're going to be here as well. If you haven't heard them, they're also going to be there. Hundreds of speakers, I think, because they're expecting thousands upon thousands. I think they're hoping for about 50,000 each day, plus some people for the entire event, plus some people that drop in over the course of the Congress.
Yeah. What are you looking forward to the most on your individual experiences at the Congress?
Both Dan and I have been in Lucas Oil Stadium for similar events. The National Catholic Youth Conference is held in that same locale every other year, and they get about 20,000 young people at that event. I remember being at it a few sessions ago, a few conferences ago, and there was Eucharistic adoration. And the reverence, the silence was palpable. You could feel it in the room as the Blessed Sacrament was brought in. For these young people, it was a pinnacle of that weekend experience. For now, that doubled, if not tripled, in size, with not just young people, but families, clergy, adults, grandparents, everyone there together to experience the Lord's presence among us in a real and physical way. The silence of 50,000 people, I think, will be deafening. That the presence of the Lord can only then reverberate out into this missionary year. That from those 70% of people who are in their pews every Sunday and believe this message, to go out and double our numbers, to go out and share this belief. So I look at this and have great hopes that this 10th Eucharistic Congress and this entire 3-year revival process as a whole will be a new springtime for the Church in the United States.
Yeah, I'll definitely piggyback off that. Going to these larger Catholic conferences, especially for youth and young adults, is always an incredible experience for me personally. Not to be cliche, but obviously adoration is the peak of these times. I also really, really love the huge liturgies and seeing. Obviously, you can't have adoration without Mass. So the Mass coming together and celebrating that, seeing hundreds of clergy up around the altar and experiencing that reverence, the silent points of Mass, the consecration, the prayers of thousands and thousands of people will be really, really mind-blowing and moving to myself, and I'm sure to many other people. I also think it's really going to be a neat experience to see the diversity of the Church, especially with the younger conferences, college and youth conferences. You expect to see who you're seeing, and that's great. And we love seeing young people experiencing Jesus in a new or renewed way. But this, as Father mentioned, being for everybody, we're going to see the whole age diversity, cultural diversity, families, single people, clergy, religious, all coming together, and it's going to be a really, really great snapshot of the Church as we stand and move forward together.
Hilaire Belloc, when he described the Church, he said, "Here comes everybody." And so everybody will be coming to Indy, but then from there being sent out. There goes everybody, the entire Church on mission to share this great gift that we've received.
Yeah. Sorry, one other. I wanted to piggyback off that.
Sure,
is
go right
that,
ahead.
On Saturday, there's going to be a Eucharistic procession through downtown Indianapolis with this whole crowd of people, and here comes everybody. We're going to be walking through the streets of Indianapolis.
So there could be
together.
50, 60,000
There
people.
could be, yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
And that was one of my favorite parts of our experience here in Wilmington was our procession that kicked off the Eucharistic revival through Wilmington. I think we had a few hundred people join us on that with Bishop Koenig leading, which was special in and of itself. But again, when you multiply that and you grow it exponentially, it's going to be really, really unique.
And it'll be covered, on EWTN and other places. People can watch if they can't make it.
I'm sure.
And Abby Thibodeau, who is one of your parishioners and is one of the young folks who is going to be attending, is going to be working as a special correspondent with the Dialogue. So you can follow along by looking at thedialogue.org. Every day throughout the the Eucharistic Congress and follow. And then she's going to come here in a few weeks and look back at her experience and share that with us as well. So I got to give a plug to that. But 27 people out of a diocese of 250,000 isn't a lot. So we're going to have a diocesan Eucharistic Congress, and that's going to be in October. Tell us about that, if you would, please.
Right. So in July, the church throughout the United States, it'll be a big group. Well, now we recognize that not everyone can make their way out to Indy for travel, for taking time off from work, for all of this. And so Bishop wanted to make sure that everyone had this opportunity to focus on this tremendous gift. And so Saturday, October 5th, in the Ocean City Convention Center, it's the Diocese of Wilmington's for the day. And so beginning at 10 o'clock and going through our closing Mass beginning at 4 on that Saturday, Bishop Koenig's inviting all of the priests, religious, faithful of the diocese to come and join him. We have space for several thousand to join. In fact, he's really underlined this because you can mark your calendars, not just to join us in Ocean City, but if you're not able to, don't try to go to Saturday night Mass in your church. We're canceling all the Saturday night Masses so that the priest can be there, so that we can have confessions, so that we can replicate that same experience. Dan talked about how impressive it was with a procession of hundreds of clergy. Sadly, we don't have hundreds of priests in our diocese, but we have dozens of priests, and I hope that many of my brothers will be joining me there, not just to help hear confessions during the day, that I'm not the only one there doing that, but to process in, to have the Church of Wilmington there gathered around our bishop with his priests, all celebrating this tremendous gift of the Eucharist.
Our diocese is the state of Delaware and Maryland's Eastern Shore, but Ocean City is pretty much the farthest away is 2 hours drive from the farthest point in our diocese. So it should be convenient for most people.
I hope so.
Absolutely.
And some parishes are doing buses and that sort of thing. So it should be a great event. But this will be different from the National Congress. But we do have a keynote speaker of top quality. Tell us about that, Dan.
And so Bishop Koenig had reached out to Bishop Richard Henning of Providence, Rhode Island, to be the keynote speaker. He's on YouTube, and he's got his own talks and things out there that are really approach the Eucharist in a very special way. He's very, and what I've seen from him speaking, is very adept at connecting this really powerful, transcendent topic of Jesus truly present under the appearances of bread and wine into something that every parishioner and anyone can approach and really grasp in an understandable way. So I think he'll bring a very good practical and still spiritual tone to our keynote address. And we also have a lineup of internationally known speakers as well. So as different as it may be size-wise from Indianapolis, we're really trying to capture the quality of the availability of these great Catholic speakers who can come and share on several different topics and different tracks, really kind of this Indianapolis experience for us here in Wilmington. And one of the beautiful things about large conferences is there's almost this feeling of anonymity when you're going and you're kind of lost in this crowd of 50,000 people. That can be a really awesome and inspiring experience. What I hope happens here in Wilmington is that we're surrounded by people we all recognize and know, and people you're going to see again, people you're going to share this journey with ongoing through the next years of the revival.
What is the goal for our diocesan Eucharistic Congress? How do we want people to be to get out of this event?
Our theme or title for the event is Source and Summit, which comes from the Second Vatican Council document on the Church, that the Eucharist is the source, that's where we draw everything from, but it's also the summit of the Christian life, that everything goes towards it. And so I don't want to put words in Bishop Koenig's mouth, but from conversations with him, and certainly my hope for our local Congress, is that all those who attend would come to a deeper love and appreciation for the Eucharist, that they find all of their sorrows, their trials, their joys, their strengths lead them towards Christ, who's present for us, that he comes to draw close to us. And then from that source, that they're able then to go out and to take and to be his presence, to continue to be his body in a world that is in even more need of his healing than Galilee was 2,000 years ago. That we all become so transformed by Christ and our love, our encounter with him, in the Ocean City Convention Center, that we then continue that process during this missionary year.
Is the event just for church-going Catholics, or could people of other faiths or maybe fallen away Catholics enjoy this opportunity?
Absolutely. The event's open to anyone within the Diocese of Wilmington, and probably some people are going to find their way from our neighboring diocese as well. But this event will really be, obviously being Catholic and having the foundation of faith might help with some of the understanding of some of the language and the concepts. But really, it's an opportunity to have that encounter. This whole Eucharistic revival, one of the core points across the country has been providing an opportunity for encounter. And that doesn't necessarily mean understanding. It doesn't mean that all the questions are completely answered in one flash of light, but just having an encounter with Jesus in the Eucharist and through the talks and understanding and the catechetical side of teaching what the church teaches. So really, it is open to anyone who's able to come and join us.
In fact, I read an article today profiling one of these perpetual pilgrims. So one of the people who are accompanying one of those procession routes to Indy with the Blessed Sacrament. And there's a non-Catholic that's on that. I'd like to know more about her story, what led her to say yes, but I would love to have interviewed her before. And then at the end of this process to see what that daily accompaniment of the Lord has done in her life. And so for all of us, whether we are daily communicants or we haven't been to church in decades, or my friend told me about a church and maybe I'm interested and I'll go, I think coming before the Lord, you never come away poorer. You are only enriched by that. And so again, for this event, for our local event, I have great hope for our diocese. Interacting with Christ is always a good thing.
It's true.
Yeah, very true. And if someone is maybe considering becoming a Catholic, maybe starting the RCIA, or what is it called now?
OCIA.
Okay. Starting that process, this would be a great step, put your toe in the water and find out whether that's actually what God's calling you to do.
Certainly.
Yeah.
So everyone should go.
That's right.
Here comes everybody.
Great. Where can we get more information about the Eucharistic Congress?
The diocese has a website active right now. It's cdow.org/Eucharistic Congress. There'll also be information going out to all the parishes for bulletin announcements, pulpit announcements. We will have a registration app that'll have all the information about speakers and the event itself once registration opens in a couple weeks here. And when we have that, they'll be able to see the whole lineup and schedule of the event. They can also email eucharist@cdow.org with any specific questions or things like that.
Great. And they'll also be following it in the dialogue, letting folks know, how they can sign up and when. And you say the registration will be open in a few weeks, probably?
Yes, we're looking for the July 26th edition of the dialogue will be our big push for registration. So as always, stay tuned to the dialogue. Make sure you get a copy every other week at your parish, but be on the lookout for not just information about registration, but all the way leading up to October 5th, information about the Congress to get people excited and drummed up to invite others to join them.
Anything else you'd like to add? And did I forget anything?
Well, just one more thing about getting the word out there is I know, because people have contacted me already, that there are parishes that have committees being formed to kind of get people involved and engaged. Several parishes and regional groups of parishes and the deaneries have talked about getting buses. So if you have questions about that process, I definitely encourage people to start at their home parish level, which will always know more than I would looking from the top down.
Right.
And then certainly email eucharist@cdow.org for questions.
Right. So start at the local parish to find out if there's a bus or a committee or what's going on there. And there will be like a nominal fee to attend, correct, to cover some of the costs.
Certainly. Registration is going to be $35 a person, and that covers the cost of food because there's going to be lunch during the day.
Right.
Just like our Lord, they led them out to the deserted places so he could preach, but he also made sure that he multiplied loaves and fish to feed them. We're going to have a different menu, but we do want to make sure that we're able to provide that for everyone. So that's what the registration fee helps with.
Good.
The only other thing that I would say is to pray, pray now, that our hearts might be receptive to what it is that the Lord has in store for us. Right at the Last Supper, John, the beloved disciple, leaned in and he heard the very heartbeat of Christ. And from that encounter, from that Last Supper, he goes out. He's able to stand at the foot of the cross. He becomes his great witness and evangelist. And for us, leaning in on the Eucharistic heart of Christ in July as a nation, but then in October as a diocese, that we might hear what it is that the Lord speaks to us so that we can then be those same witnesses out in the world.
Very good. Well, Father Joe McQuaide and Mr. Dan Pinn, thanks so much for being with us today on Catholic Forum. Have a safe and amazing journey to Indianapolis, and I'm sure we'll be talking more as the months get closer, as we get closer to our Diocesan Eucharistic Congress. But thanks for being with us today.
Certainly. Always a pleasure.